time with family, staying active, doing what you love. We understand how important it is to live your best life, even as times are changing. At Holzer, we strive to help every patient achieve their best health during every stage of life. With more options for care through in-person and virtual visits, we are dedicated to providing you with excellent care every time. Live your best life with Holzer.
And welcome. Thanks for joining us here. The Talk of the Town podcast, episode 22, brought to you by the Gallia County Chamber of Commerce and Holzer Health System. Josh Wellington, the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce here in Gallia County, and joining me today from ITSVOIP and numerous other entities, Travis Denny. Travis, thanks for joining us.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
So, ITSVOIP. To people who know what VoIP is, it makes great sense. But if you're not familiar with what VoIP is, let's talk first a little bit about what is ITSVOIP.
Sure. So ITSVOIP, the company name stems from Infinity Tech Services being another company that I own. So Infinity Tech Services, the ITS part. VoIP being the technology that our company provides is voice over IP. So we are a business phone system provider that provides phones that when you make a call, the call actually uses your internet. So think of us like a Netflix or a Hulu that you've already been able to cut your costs at home with, and businesses are no longer stuck to having to pay prices that their phone company basically makes them pay, whatever that may be, because you think you're stuck with them. And we can kind of cut the costs with your business phones as well, because we can use that same pipe of high-speed internet that you use to watch your Netflix and Hulu at home. We can do the same thing at your business with your phone system. So you would no longer have to, play victim or be a prisoner to your phone company or your cable company providing your phones for your business.
And so we have ITSVOIP here in our office, and I love it. And in full honesty, I really like the options that it gives you on top of what some of your traditional phone services may offer. My favorite part, and some people will say you're crazy, this should be the one thing you dislike about it, is if for some reason, for whatever the reason may be, I can't come in. I'm going to be off work for a week. I've got COVID, my kid's sick, whatever the case may be, but I need to get some work done at home. And luckily, I'm here. I have Paige, so she is able to take care of things when I'm not here. But in the event that you don't have your own version of Paige, you can take that phone to your house, hook it to your Wi-Fi, and it will ring as though it is in your office. And to some people, they're probably thinking, I would never want that to happen. And when I leave my office, I definitely don't want the phone to ring. But if you're in a pinch, that's a tremendous asset.
Yeah, that's one of those things that really sets us apart. So a lot of businesses, if we rewind back to 20, 30 years ago when they may have bought the phone system that they have, they would have spent tens of thousands of dollars. They had a company come in and install what's called a PBX. It's a brain somewhere on site that switches calls. And once that person that company does the install of that PBX and they leave, you're kind of crossing your fingers. Well, I hope nothing happens to that because I don't know what they did.
Right.
Like, I can't work on this. If we're at their mercy if there's an issue with it. So then you have, as a sideline cost to your phone system that you just bought, and then the phone lines rendered by your phone company that you pay for monthly. You also have probably a monthly maintenance contract with the company that put it in, or years down the line, you realize you have a problem, a company that you have then called because you've been in a pinch and nobody knows how to work on it. So with our system, our phones actually are cloud-based, so you don't have to have that PBX or that brain installed by some company that comes in, and then you're left with, what do I do now? So our phones just seek high-speed internet, and it's hard to do business these days without high-speed internet, so it pretty much works for anybody. But in your instance, like you posed, if somebody's off with COVID, they're completely able to work, but they need to stay isolated, take your phone home with you. We even have options that you don't even have to take your physical phone with you. However, that does give the native environment that you used to at your house, but you can answer calls via cell phone, and you can even call by computer or any application that handles the protocol that our phones speak, which are readily available. So yes, you can answer calls. You can make calls appearing as if you're calling from the business from anywhere you'd like. So it's very versatile, and that's one of the things that sets us apart.
Another thing that this system does that we use a lot, in fact, as we were getting ready to record it, you used it then. So if, for say, I'm the only one here during the day and I have to run somewhere, when you call our office, before we went to the system, we answered the phone, thank you for calling, blah, 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 and drag on forever. And 4 out of 10 times we answer the phone, someone would say, man, that's a lot. It is. It's a lot. So then you came along, and now a voice says everything we used to say, and if you want to speak to a person, hit a button, and then it will ring into our office phones. If by chance, and you don't hear any of this stuff on the back end on your end, but if we're not here, after about 4 rings, it rings to my cell phone. So I can be in the car, out seeing other members, out running to the mailbox, whatever the case may be. I don't miss that call. Now, it may be something where they have a question where I need access to my computer, and I have to call them back, after talking to them, but I still don't miss that call. So that's another big thing that we use a lot here, and it's so simplistic. And then you have the ability to what they call park calls. So if I'm out on the road and Paige has a phone call for me, she can get it to me on my cell without any problem. We can utilize the app. You can set it up if you're going to be closed for a week. You can set it up that, hey, this is holiday hours, but the best part of that voice speaking, and you have to hit 1, is no telemarketer ever hits 1.
Yeah.
Or it hits the button to talk to somebody. It cuts that off at the knees.
Yeah, we're actually running some ad campaigns right now on Facebook and Google, and that's one of our targets. Is we're basically able to claim that we can prevent robocalling, because the robocallers don't press any buttons whenever they call in. They're just annoying. Mm-hmm. So they hit that auto attendant that says, thank you for calling XYZ LLC. Please press 1. Well, the robocaller's just sitting there and they just die off. So your phone actually never even rings. The system handles it and then they just hang up. So that's a really nice feature of the auto attendants for sure.
A normal business, this may be a tough question to answer, but if you're a business that, say, you have less than a half dozen extensions, for example, and you're with a traditional phone service now, what do you feel, in ballpark, what can a business of that size save by switching over to ITSVOIP?
So it goes either way with this. We see people that save money. We see more people that save money than not. But some people, it is actually a little more expensive. But here's the difference. So with a traditional phone system, and you're talking less than a half dozen, let's say 5. Okay. You've got 5 phones. That business likely pays for maybe 2 phone lines. So you can make 2 phone calls at the same time. We have 3 other people that if both phone lines are tied up, they can't make or receive a call, and customers can't call in, so you're not selling any product. You're not making any additional revenue. So with our system, every phone that you have can actually make a phone call at the exact same time without waiting for a line to be open. So that's one major reason why we're different. Now, I will say in the last 7 business days, we've actually onboarded 2 people that are saving $5,000 and $6,000, 2 separate occurrences per year by switching to us. And one of those companies specifically has 3 phone lines through a local phone company at their business. 3 phone lines, a receptionist, and 2 of the, I'll call them service providers to keep the business anonymous. Right. And they were paying over $600 a month for their phone bills. So through us, and again, they didn't re-up a contract, so unbeknownst to them, until they check their credit card statement, it's too late. They're out of contract, and their bills are over $600 a month. So with us, it was something like $90 a month. Wow. So multiply that savings times 12, and that's an example of what we provide. Similar to cutting the cord with DirecTV or Dish Network, or maybe your cable provider for your TV, and then getting Netflix and Hulu and Discovery Plus and et cetera, et cetera. Instead, we're all used to having those savings at home, but if you're self-employed or it's your small business, you can have those same costs cut at the business, where you thought you were basically just a captive audience, or a captive client, I should say, of your local phone company, your phone provider, whether it's your cable company or AT&T, Verizon, Frontier, something like that. And that's just no longer true. And it hasn't been true for decades. But people are so scared to change.
Yes.
Because there's not somebody that acts as a mediator that can help educate and help do a demo and help show how easy it is. And then once people see how easy the phone system is, next thing they know, they're onboarded. They're on our system and they love it. They absolutely love it. So like 80 to 90%, and then I'm just pulling this number out of the air. A lot of our training, actually, whenever we have users in front of a phone that we've just installed for them, or even during our demos, revolves around, if you have an incoming call that comes in and it's not for you, how do you get it to the person that it's intended for? And that training takes all of 60 seconds to do.
Right.
And at that point in time, it kind of breaks the ice. It's like, to the user that's getting ready to be faced with having to use these phones, it all comes clear. It's so easy to use. So, and you can attest to that. I mean, we have tons of businesses in Gallia County and beyond that are using our service. It's very likely that if you've called a business in town, it's very, very highly likely that you've talked to somebody that's using our phone system. So, and I've actually gotten some permission from some businesses that I can actually name. So River City Leather, Thomas Dewitt Center, Baxter's Harley Davidson, Field of Hope, Tuscany. You ever call and order Tuscany? That's our system that's taking care of that. Tuscany specifically was only able to take X amount of calls at the same time. Now they have more phones, they can take more orders. That equals more sales, more profit, etc. So that's really nice. We have 2 of the major car dealerships in town. It's an endless. We have hundreds of extensions and tons of customers, and we've just grown bigger and bigger. So I think we have something like 50 or 60 extensions to deploy in the next 2 weeks. Wow. So we definitely stay busy, that's for sure.
And it's nice to have a local person that, if you have a problem, you can call somebody, and you're busy, but that doesn't mean you're that far away, and you can oftentimes diagnose it over the phone, or come in and get to it pretty quickly. But we see it also not just with phone service, but with Ohio being a state where you can source out your utilities. So when this first started and people were calling like, hey, we want you to change your electric provider, I'm like, look, man, AEP, these folks are members of my organization, they're great supporters of our community. I'm not. But then you find out AEP is still coming from AEP. It's just, we're going to sell it to you for less. That's kind of, I think, a lot of people, especially an older generation, are going to look at it and say, well, I want to make sure that, this isn't just some fly-by-night thing and it's going to screw me up and then I'm not going to be able to get my phone line back or whatever. Or then additionally to that, and I know that this is something you can do, is, so I've been in business for 40 years and I'm a tire shop and my number's 555 tire, and I would love to switch. I want to save money. Everyone wants to save money, but man, everybody knows 555 tire. You can take that number, right? Correct, and move it over to the new system, and they never miss a beat. Yeah,
I just had that question by a customer that I was working with before the podcast here. They were concerned about keeping their numbers, and something we do is part of our onboarding process actually includes you submitting a bill to us that shows that you own X amount of numbers, and we work with our underlying carrier to get your guys' numbers ported over. So all of your numbers come over from your existing carrier, and then once that happens, you can actually just you can cancel service with that carrier and then start reaping the benefits of the savings. But it takes about 2 weeks, so it's not similar to if you walk in a cell phone provider store and you're running from, you're changing from one cell phone provider to another. It does take a little bit of time, but we can actually have phones deployed from contract signage to you actually using phones can be like 4 business days if it needs to be. Wow. So what we can do is we can actually take a number that already exists in our system that people don't need to know, and we can make it where if you were to call it, yes, you would hear exactly what you want to hear people to hear whenever they would call your business after they're migrated over to us. And what we would do on your losing carrier before the numbers moved over to us is actually just turn on call forwarding. At that point, all calls that hit your 555 tire, as your example, would then be forwarded to the temporary number that we already own in our system. So it's completely seamless. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, whenever your numbers port into our system, we make sure the call treatment is the exact same as what your temporary number was, so that when people call 555 tire, they're calling the actual 555 tire and they're no longer forwarded at that point in time.
Right.
So that's how we take care of the switching. But yes, we can keep businesses' existing numbers, and that is actually a very common question that we get.
You're located here in Gallia County, but you're by far not relegated to only Gallia County. What kind of service area does its VoIP serve at this point?
Sure. So we currently have clients in Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky. And I mean, this kind of system works for all kinds of different businesses. We have anywhere from car dealerships to churches, insurance offices, law offices, real estate, retail, restaurants, you name it. I mean, it works anywhere there's high-speed internet available, and it's your place of business, and you use phones, and people call you. We can basically, you can be an ITSVOIP customer. We can switch you over. It's crazy painless. So there's a 3-step program that we do, three-step process. Step 1 is generally, how would you like to pay for it? Would you like to pay for it with a credit card, ACH, etc.? Step 2, give us a bill, a phone bill that you have with your current carrier. That allows us to start the porting process. Step 3, if you have an office with 20 people in it, list of those 20 people, give us the extension number you would like for those 20 people to have each, give us their email addresses, and that's how we set up everything on the back end. So when we show up with phones on installation day, those phones actually are introduced to internet for the very first time. They've never been taken out of the box. And as soon as they see internet, they get all of their button programmings that are already set for the employee that it's intended for, and everything's completely seamless.
And we talk about these phones, and you offer a few different types, but the one that we're familiar with here in the office, we had the old style phone with the little calculator type screen on it that showed the number that was calling or whatever, and depending on how the light shined in the window or the quality of your eyesight, it's sometimes tough. You got to hold it at a certain angle. These new phones, especially the ones we got, and we went with a mid-level phone from the offering.
Right.
Bright, vibrant screen, full color, easy to read, easy to operate. Probably does 1,000 things that I never will use, but it does what I need seamlessly. And if I need to change anything, I need to change the greeting, or I need to change the voice on the greeting. Like, it's computer generated, but it doesn't sound like Alexa. It's conversational almost.
Yeah.
The way we have it set up. And these, if you're in an office situation, they don't always have the best lighting. You're in a cubicle. These phones are tremendous for any type of situation. And again, if you're the person that wants the newest toy or whatever, and you want the biggest screen and this, and it's available.
None of our listeners are like that. Come on.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the best, right? Everybody wants the
if
worst.
If you want the big screen, they have that. If you think, you know what, I'm really not going to be able to, I'm not utilizing this. Maybe the receptionist needs this type, but everybody else that's just answering a call that's sent to them, they aren't going to be sending stuff. So there's another option for that. I have to be honest, when we first started talking about this, before I was able to know what they cost, I'm in my head thinking, this phone, I need at least 2, and these phones are going to cost me $600 or $800 a piece. Like, that in my mind is, how am I going to take it? Because I have to answer,
They look really nice.
I can make a decision, but if it's something like that, like, I've got to go to a board, and I've got to ask for permission, and think, how am I going to convince this board that I need $1,500 worth of phones?
Right.
And that's not the case.
Right. So I've got actually a short story for you regarding the phone costs. So back to the costs, tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes it can be single-digit thousands of dollars.
Right.
I've got a local office in town here that they bought a phone system maybe in 2008 or so. And I remember when that went in, and one by one, their phones, their calculator-looking, thermostat-looking phones, the pixels started to die in them, so nobody would have a clue who's calling. So they ended up, I was in there for other IT related stuff, and they mentioned, hey, our phones are kind of acting up. You guys do anything with phones? And I was able to say yes. Well, they were used to paying, not used to paying, but paid, $7,000 or something like that for this piece of plywood with stuff mounted to it that they put in their basement, and they, put phones throughout the office. They were used to $7,000 being the cost of, what I was going to tell them that their phones were going to cost. So they took the absolute highest model touchscreen phones that we offer, and it ended up being like something like $1,800 or something like that.
Right.
But the good thing about it is, to date, I mean, that's been 4 years ago. To date, we haven't had a single problem with the phones. So we haven't had to replace any. But if they need one replaced, we can replace it with a single phone and not have to worry about calling the people out of Columbus or Dayton or wherever they come from to work on the phone system. We can either drop ship it to you or drop by and install it for you and have it ready to go just as soon as you get it out of the box and it comes on.
Wow.
So the cost is it's crazy. It's I guess it's rewarding to be able to offer such a service that saves people money. It's cheaper to implement. It's cheaper over the course of time, and it can actually give you a more productive way to do things. And those are the three most important things, because usually you have to give on one. It's either going to cost a lot and it's going to be a little more productive for you, or it's going to be a pain to implement, or whatever it is. We make sure that everything is easy to learn. We will, even if you have different shifts of employees that come in, we make sure we train everybody. We do the install, we handle the porting, we handle everything. We make it so easy. And that's, I think, one of the main reasons that we've been so successful is, when's the last time your phone company came on site? Never. If there's a problem outside, they wiggle some wires in a box.
Look,
and they leave.
Where I live, this is the phone story that I can't get over. So my wife and I bought a house a couple of years ago, and so we're getting ready to close, and the people there have a landline and AT&T internet service. I'm just going to put it out there, that's where it is. And so they cancel it because they're moving out the next day. I call the next day and say, I need this turned back on, but in my name, I need the internet and I want a landline. Sorry, it's not available there. It was available here yesterday.
Isn't that crazy?
The wiring is still here. Sorry, sir, we don't offer it in your area. But it was here yesterday.
Right.
No, sorry.
The sad thing is the equipment you were patched in, that the old customers were patched into, is still in a box somewhere.
Yes.
It's still there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I guess a question, not every business in Gallia County or the surrounding counties is in the city limits or where they can tap into 1 gig, internet service.
Yeah.
What is a minimum requirement? If you're a business out in the country, what's the minimum requirements that you can have, say, internet speed to be able to take advantage of ITSVOIP and its programs?
Sure. So to kind of blur some lines and not make everybody glaze over that's listening to this about numbers and units and measurements that they've heard about but don't really care about. And I get that because I deal with it every day. Each concurrent phone call takes about 100 kilobits per second. So that's that's around 0.1 megabits. It's not an exact calculation, but 0.1 megabits. So to put it in perspective, about double the speed of a high-speed dial-up connection, like 56K. So double that, 112K. That's about, what it's going to take per concurrent phone call that's going on. So if you have 10 phone calls going on, you're using 1 megabit internet.
Gotcha.
So, if you have, let's say from JB Nets, you have like a 6 megabit plan or something like that, you could probably make 60 calls at the same time.
Wow.
Now, the good thing about the system is each phone can actually make a call, put that call on hold, and make another call without having to worry about how many lines they're taking up, to put it into like perspective of like the phone system they'll be replacing. So there's no lines anymore. So you can be on a call, put it on hold, make a call. When you make that second call, that's the only call that's active. So that's the only call that's using any data. So, the call that you put on hold, it's on hold in the system, in the cloud. And, so, everybody could be on the phone, 60 calls at the same time, put a call on hold, and make another call if they have like a base JB Nets plan or subscription.
Will it work with satellite internet as well?
Satellite internet is kind of a different beast, so we get into some latency issues with that. So the difference between, like, whenever you type www.google.com in your web browser, you press enter, and it takes like a couple of seconds before it actually starts sending data your way. you'll experience that same kind of delay with the phone system. So if you're talking Starlink, satellite internet, it's very likely that it'll work just fine. I actually haven't been able to toy around with that yet, but I hope to soon. But probably with HughesNet and such, I would say we would have to assess it and see kind of how it is, but what the quality of the internet is. But otherwise, JB Nets, we have plenty of extensions on JB Nets, anywhere from a car parts company in town that has 20 or so extensions to Field of Hope that has probably about the same. They're both on JB Nets. RNC Packing, I have to give a shout out to them because they were our very first customer in 2017.
Oh, wow.
They have been on JB Nets, and they may have like 4 or 5 extensions out there, so out on 850. But and JB Nets a lot of times is looked at as they're not as good as a wireline service, but that's hardly true.
Right.
I mean, the type of internet that they get as their backhaul of how they can give you internet is many times better than what we can get in town as a hardline service. So JB Nets usually, is thought of as kind of a last resort option.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, at home I have AT&T available to me and almost Suddenlink, and I would actually never do business with either of them just because I get such good of service through JB Nets. So
that's who I have at home as well, is JB Nets, and they, we moved into our home as COVID was starting. And so at the time, my job, I needed internet every day. I had to have a Skype meeting twice a day. And I called Jake and was like, hey, I've got to have this. And they came out. They wouldn't come in the house, but they at least ran it to my window so I could get it in the house and have the internet service. So,
right.
We're going to do a lunch and learn in March. So if you're listening to this and you want to know more and you want to see some phones hands-on and things like that, I'm sure we can have some that you can take a look at. We'll get the date out for that and then probably the coming weeks. So Travis is going to come to that, and that's free to our members to sign up for. We feed you, give you some information that'll help your business and get you back to work in a decent time. So there's that. If in the meantime a business hears this and they're interested in seeing what they can do to kind of wrap things up, what's the best way to reach ITSVOIP?
Sure. So we can actually take your phone call at 740-999-VOIP. That's VOIP. So 740-999-8647, I think is what it actually is on the keypad. Our website is ITSVOIP. That's ITSVOIP.io. So ITSVOIP.io. And the good thing about our website is I actually just implemented something on our pricing section where you can actually type in how many phones you have, how many fax lines you have or fax machines that you'd like to have service for, and what you're currently paying per month, and it'll show you what your monthly bill would be with us and how much you would save over the course of a year instant without sending any kind of an email or having to be in our system whatsoever. Wow. So you can calculate it, and it's just crazy how much people can actually save. Just before the podcast, we've actually got another customer in addition to the $5,000 and $6,000 per year customers I mentioned earlier in the podcast. We had another one that is going to be onboarding that's going to be saving about $3,000 a year.
Wow,
it's crazy. I mean,
and you're not held back, as I run out of time here. You're not held back by you have to have a 446 number. You have to have an 853. There's a lot of options out there, right? If you're
right, yeah. We actually use, just to, I guess, show a little bit of our hand of cards, we use numberbarn.com. So if you want to go to numberbarn.com and try to search for like some kind of vanity number you may want for people to call in, that's how we got 740-999-VOIP. But you can purchase a number there. We can port it into our service, and then you would actually have a phone number that spells out something. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Travis, I appreciate you coming in. Like I said, we'll have a lunch and learn soon, and we'll get more information out there. Until then, we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.